Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Paul Webb. I'm the founder of B2B Energy, and I'm also your host regarding this YouTube channel. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you very much for contributing to this channel, supporting this channel, subscribing to this channel, and of course, liking this channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please click down below and subscribe. There's lots of information regarding energy management within this channel. There's over 500 plus videos that you could watch, and there's also the YouTube channels that are linked back to the podcast. So there's quite a lot of information, insights from myself and also energy experts. Today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite things regarding energy management, and that is doing the energy assessment. Now, you will notice I use the word assessment. I personally don't like the word audit. And the reason why I don't like the word audit is because audits are where we tell an organisation where they're going wrong. Audits is where we're actually digging into them and saying, this is wrong, we need to be doing this. I like the word assessment. We're going to assess their energy management. We're going to assess their energy. We're going to work with them to get it right. So it's a lot more softer approach, and it's the right approach. We need to be working with organisations, because when we actually come and do these assessments, the assessments have been arranged possibly from different people within the organisation, maybe from the board, maybe the owner, or maybe the head of engineering. And by the time we've got to site to do the energy assessment, we may not be dealing with that group of people now. We're dealing with individuals, the maintenance managers, the office manager, or maybe someone who's responsible for that building. So it's really important that we start off with the right approach. Now, many times when I've gone into an organisation to carry out this assessment, when I've turned up to site, they possibly may not be aware that I'm coming, but more importantly, they may not be aware of how long I intend to be there and what areas I'm going to need to cover. For me to try and sort of stop that from happening, I always write to the contact to let them know I'm coming, to let them know what areas I'm going to be looking at, what the process will be throughout the day, and what equipment I'm likely to bring with me. And at that time, I may ask a question, is there any particular thing I need to be aware of? So that there covers the scope and the boundaries. I also try to allude that I would like to take some photographs of the building. Obviously not of people, but of the building. Can we do that? Are we allowed to take photos? Is there going to be any restrictions? Possibly within that process. Now, the first thing I do whenever I get to site is that I get there early. So I try to get there a little bit early so I can just have a bit of a survey around, just to understand what is happening within that building. I've remembered doing this many times, and I've arrived to site and I've seen all the lights on outside. I've seen lights on within the building, and I've heard noises of the plant room in certain times when I've actually carried out this review. The first thing also I do is I take a photograph of the building. Now what that does, it helps me sort my pictures out at a later date. If I download all those photographs onto a directory, the first photograph I've taken would have been of the actual property. That is a very good bookmark and a starting point. And I've actually proved that convention many times when someone's asked me, have I done an energy assessment on this particular property? I've been able to go back and find those photographs. Now, another reason for doing it, I'll probably take about between 90 and 100 photographs during the day. And trust me, when you've started doing assessments over the many years, all these photographs start to blend into one, because you're probably zooming in into particular areas to get that detail. So the first thing we do, we take a photograph and we take an overview of what's happening within that building. If we see something that's not right, document it, take a picture. Because if we go into the building and explain to the person responsible for the building what we've seen, when we go back out, it may have changed. But you've got documentation, proof to say this is what I see and observed on that time of arriving. So whenever we see something, always take the photograph first for the observation, then comment on it. We're not trying to trick people here. We're just trying to provide good evidence and a good process regarding it. Now, the first thing we want to do when we get there is to have a setup meeting. Sit down with the responsible person, break the ice, get to know them, get to understand how the building's operating, then go through the process of what we're going to be carrying out on that day. Next, for me, I like to break the building down. So when you look at that building when you arrive, don't panic. It could be a very large complex, but don't worry. This process will help you break it down and address all the areas that we need to assess for the energy management. Now, we're going to break this down into areas of walking around and doing the assessment. And what I find the best area to do first is the perimeter area and walk around the building. Why do I do that? It may not be raining in the morning when we get there. It's likely it could be, but if it isn't, we've got a good chance to walk around that building before it does, because I guarantee by the time you finish the building assessment and you say, right, let's look outside, it could be raining. So let's get the outside addressed first. That's a good time to actually speak with the individual, just to start building more like and trust with them, so they're understanding what we're going to be doing on the day. And there we'll get a feel for you regarding the things that you're going to be looking at. And each area we're going to walk into, we're going to be focusing on heating, cooling, lighting, power, energy management, and of course, water. So those areas are all the areas that we're going to be focusing on. And I like to remind people about how train stations used to be with that sign that used to flick around and round and round. And I had this in my head when I'm walking around and I see this sign flicking around regarding the heating, cooling, lighting, power. It's a habit I've got into, and it's a habit I actually use every time I walk into a building, whether I'm out there shopping or I've got a meeting somewhere. I'm constantly looking at these areas. So once we've walked around the perimeter, we're then going to come into the building. And I like to go straight to the top, to the roof, and then work my way down through that building. Now, the reason why I do that is I believe by going straight to the top and then coming down, I find it's a very structured approach, and I find I actually walk less. And the actual timing of that does seem to be work very, very systematic for me. Once we've done through the floors, we pick up possible plant rooms and roofs and then through the floors. And we need to be identifying all the plant rooms. So once we've carried out all the floors and the plant rooms, we then start to focus on the meters. So I'll ask the question, can we look at a gas meter? Can we look at a water meter? Can we look at the electricity meter? What I try to do is in the setup meeting, the organisation, the individual would have known that I want to see those areas. And as I say, we're going to go perimeter, roof, floors, plant rooms. He may say, oh, those meters are going to be, for instance, the gas meter might be outside, the electricity meter may be on the roof, etc. So by covering all those areas, we're being very concise and we're ticking it off as we go. Have in the back of your mind or documented all the things that you wanted to cover on that assessment: heating, cooling, lighting, power, energy management, and water. Before you leave site, just go through your photographs, go through everything that you need to collate on the day, just to make sure you've covered everything. So it's a very good idea to just sit to one side, maybe with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, just to go through those elements to make sure you've covered every area that you needed to. And then lastly, what I would then do is sit with the responsible person and just go through some of the key areas that you've identified, because what we're trying to do there is actually pick up any low-hanging fruit and identify areas that that responsible person can go and address there and then. I believe that an energy assessment of that caliber can be carried out very, very quickly. And by the time you started at 9, possibly finished between 3 and 4 o'clock, that's a good time to actually cover all the area regarding the energy assessment. I hope that helps. I've got some bullet points within the description, some detail in there, and I'm always available to answer any questions. As I've said before, you can put a comment below, or you can find me on LinkedIn, which is Paul Webb, Energy Expert. You can go and find my website, which is b2benergy.co.uk, and maybe arrange a meeting with me and talk about how you would deliver energy management there. I also run a training course that help individuals and organizations deliver energy management. So there's lots of resource around what I do. There's a considerable amount of resource available for you just to listen and learn. That is what I'm about. I've been in this industry for over 45 years now, and my goal is to give back to the industry regarding learning. So thank you very much for listening. That leaves me with one more thing to say. Please, you and your family, stay safe in these times.